Got
Anybody wants to make a public comment? Perfect. That's how serious he was.
and we have to talk real loud.
Literally, up until like an hour ago, I was come down, flying sobby mess. I called Harmison, I go, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it tonight.
I'm sorry, Bob.
Is he back on the mend maybe?
Oh, good. Every time I see that, have you seen that commercial where they have
So were you a little concerned when I told you I was
like they go to the bathroom and it changes color and tells you what's wrong with it? I think of you and your cat.
Because you know that's how part of the conference ago.
Right. Yeah, I think
I'm at the vet every week. Yeah, but think about it. Tommy flood, put him down because they said, well, we think it's kidney failure.
now he's getting
I don't know who didn't get one. I don't
We
know.
made
Some
it.
people-
Kevin's not gonna-
So we got an extra.
There was 10. Maybe not.
Did you print this one?
No. I was given that by street cars.
Anyway, I'm here.
I've been
So we agreed with all this?
They're silly. So Pete Cars and I are going out for a toddy afterwards.
Good for you and Pete. I probably better go home. I haven't been home. I got home.
Where Chris is going. Yeah, Alien.
Oh, and you gotta watch the Bronco game too.
Gotta watch. Gotta watch.
I watch pro football usually.
Oh,
Okay, good evening, folks. Before I call to order, we have Alderman Rucker, who's in Canada. If I could have your attention, please. Alderman Rucker, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you very well. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can. Very good. So with that being said, I
Okay.
call this meeting to order. If you'll all please join me for the national anthem. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Alderman Ross.
Here.
Alderman Schuman. Here. Alderman Morose.
Here,
Alderman Osteen.
I am present.
Alderman Becker.
Here.
Alderman Rucker.
Here.
Oh, Mayor Harmonson.
I'm here too. Thank you very much. All right, first is citizens' communications. This is the time set aside on the agenda for citizens and visitors to address the mayor and board on any topic that is not a public hearing. For those here in person, speakers will be restricted to 3 minutes unless otherwise permitted. Minutes may not be donated or transferred from one speaker to another. Visitors attending via online will be in listen-only mode. Any questions or comments for the mayor and board may be sent to the city clerk at tberreth@osagebeach.org no later than 10 a.m. on the board meeting day, the first and third Thursday of each month. Submitted questions and comments may be read during the citizens' communications section of the agenda. The Board of Aldermen will not take any action on any item not listed on the agenda, nor will it respond to questions, although staff may be directed to respond at a later time. The Mayor and the Board of Aldermen welcome and value input and feedback from the public. Is there anyone here in person who would like to address the board? If you would, please come on up one at a time, sign in, and then you'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much for letting me speak here
Good
in front
evening.
of you. My name is Brenda Childers. I'm a longtime resident of Osage Beach. I've worked at Lake Regional and with Osage Beach Ambulance, and I am on the fire department here in this district. I have some concerns about the development that they're talking about doing. There's a couple concerns. One is increase of traffic on Nichols Road. We addressed that concern when the elementary school went in. It has increased quite significantly. The road has worn down more. That's my concern number one. Concern number two is that this is going to be tax-free. I don't think that's right. I pay my sales taxes on items I buy here in the city, and I pay my property taxes. And I don't think a developer should be exempt from that, because they're going to make more and more money as time goes on, because we all know rents will go up. That's just a fact. I do believe that we need to look at this closely and consider what's going on with it, consider if it's best for the area. Also, those of us who live down Nichols Road, we lost a lot of our soundproofing from road traffic when the bypass went by. That's great, we needed the bypass. But if we take out more trees for this large development, we're gonna have less of a buffer of the noise. And that's part of the reason I live here in Osage Beach, is because I love having some peace and quiet. The other issue that I have with this is that this development is it's put out as a feasible housing for people who can't afford housing otherwise. $900 to $2,000 is not feasible, guys. I can tell you, most of the people I know that work at the hospital there, that's not considered good, low, available housing. It just is not. If it was maximum 900, you might be talking to some of them, but there's a lot of them. And I know y'all think nurses make a lot of money. We don't make as much as you think, and it's going to even be harder for them too. They have families to support also. Those are some of my concerns. I hope you take them, in thought on this issue. And I really, really, really hope that you have more time to think about this instead of making a quick decision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can I ask you to reiterate that the citizen communications are not for citizens to express views or opinions regarding an item that's on the public agenda?
Yeah, we are going to have a public
Because we
hearing
will
about
get
this one
that.
item, but they're welcome to speak on anything. But just for those that do want to speak on this, you're going to be, during the public hearing, you're going to have another opportunity to speak on it, just so you know. We will be, the first part of the agenda is going to be on the Tegethoff development down Sycamore solely. So you're welcome to talk now, but if you'd like to wait till later, you certainly can.
Just a technicality, folks.
Correct, thank you. At this time, is there anybody who would like to speak? Yes, sir. If you would please sign in.
I'm just trying to catch up. I'm sure you definitely know what I've been dealing with. James Gohagen, First District Commissioner for Camden County. So the way the 353 and the Chapter 100 works, so is the city abating the county's property tax? Is that what's going on?
Well, James, with all due respect, this isn't the time we do question and answer. You have 3 minutes to speak, and
Okay,
then
well, I'll throw out my
during the
questions.
public hearing, you're welcome to ask the developers that exact question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, from the county's viewpoint, it just feels, and I don't ever get involved in any city deal unless it's a problem that the county has to deal with. So we're just trying to figure out, are we going around the process that has historically been done with abating taxes? I don't have any issues with the project, honestly. It looks like it'd be an advantage. Affordable housing, I kind of agree with the lady back there. It's not exactly affordable. But I would just like to really know the process. If you're abating the county's taxes, then we are getting involved. We've tried to see how historically this process has worked. And I know 353 has been around for quite a long time, since like the 40s, but whenever I would ask each one of you if you know how much you get from the county as a whole. Do you know how much we lose out in TIFs and everything as a whole? So it's just a little bit of research I would encourage you to do. Think about it before you make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And again, we'll have plenty of time during the open session to visit. Anybody else like to speak at this time? If not, if it's about this project, you have plenty of time to speak once Mark Spikerman gets through talking. All right, if not at this time, then I guess we need to go ahead and, first of all, I believe, we need to go ahead and take care of, the board so desires, the consent agenda may be approved in a single motion. We have the minutes from the Board of Aldermen meeting September 15th, 2022, and the bills list. Have you all had a chance to look at those, and do we have any questions or comments from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Alderman Rose, do I have a second? Alderman Becker. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Consent agenda is approved. Now we're going to move on to the public hearing. And this is a development proposal by the Preserve at Sycamore Creek. And at this time, I'm going to turn this over to Mark Spikerman. If you would, please come up, and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the Board of Aldermen. My name is Mark Spikerman. I'm an attorney with Gilmore and Bell. I'm special counsel to the city on this particular development project. And they brought up a PowerPoint here. I've got just a few slides that'll hopefully make it a little bit easier to explain Chapter 100, Chapter 353. These are terms I know not everyone is familiar with, but we'll try to break it down, give you
Mark?
a better.
Just 1 second, please. Yes.
There are copies, if anybody wants them, on the back table. We have some.
There are some right here, too.
Right.
Okay.
This public hearing, technically under state law, is only about what we call the Chapter 353 bill, but the Chapter 100 and 353 go together, so I'm just gonna address both so you understand the differences and how they fit together. The first bill, 2271, is what I refer to as the Chapter 100 bill. When I say Chapter 100, I mean Chapter 100 of the Missouri statutes, and I mean Article 6, Section 27B of the Missouri Constitution. That's very important in our legal analysis because Article 6, Section 27B says the city has the constitutional authority to undertake commercial projects. We've got Attorney General opinions that say for-profit rental housing is a commercial enterprise. We've got case law that says anything you're doing for profit is basically a commercial activity. You put those things together, and that's our authority to take action under Chapter 100 to do a project such as this. So what exactly does Chapter 100 do? Why do we care? What are we doing? In this case, we're using the power under Chapter 100 to trigger another statute, 144062, to allow a sales tax exemption on construction materials. So any lumber, any steel, any windows, anything they buy to build the buildings, they can buy without paying sales tax. They essentially borrowed the city's own sales tax exemption for that purpose. If you've looked at the title of the ordinance for Bill 2271, you'll see it references bonds, a large dollar amount of bonds. Those bonds are important, but they're not the same bonds that the city, the school district, or the county would issue to build city halls, roads, schools. These are different kind of bonds. These are what we call special limited obligations. They are not payable from tax revenues. Again, not payable from tax revenues. The only thing they're paid from, and we use air quotes here, are lease payments made by the developer. And I've got on the next slide, you'll understand why I've used air quotes with that. The bonds are important because they trigger, or they're part of a three-part test we use to have the authority to do the sales tax exemption. One, we have to have statutory authority to undertake the project. That's the whole Chapter 100, the commercial project analysis. Two, we've got to have a property interest, and when I say we, I mean the city, a property interest in the project. As you'll see on the next slide, there's a lease-back transaction as part of this Chapter 100 transaction. And thirdly, we need to have consideration. That's where the bond transaction fits in. It's a way of documenting on paper for statutory purposes how the project became a project for the city. Put those all together, the developer builds the project, ends up with what we estimate to be a savings of approximately $940,000. That $940,000 is not just coming from sales tax that would have been paid in the city or the county. It's wherever they bought the construction materials. So if they bought something in St. Louis or Kansas City, it's exempting St. Louis or Kansas City sales tax. Wherever they buy it in the state of Missouri, it's exempting the state's portion of the sales tax, which is the largest portion of your total tax rate as well. This is what I refer to as the scary slide. It's somewhat hard to follow at first. If you look in the upper left corner, going down the left-hand side, you'll see a red box leading to a green box leading to another red box. Those three boxes are kind of what the Chapter 100 is not. The Chapter 100 is not funding for the project. The city is not writing a check to the developer for $63 million. The developer has to get a construction loan. They have to put in their own equity. They'll use that money to pay their construction contractors to build the project. Separately from that transaction, everything to the right, where you see leases, indenture, bond purchase agreement, bond trustee, that is what we call the Chapter 100 transaction. So we've got going from the green box on the left to the dark blue box in the middle. We've got a leaseback transaction, kind of a, from the blue circle box in the middle to the yellow box on the right to the green box in the lower right corner. We've got these bonds on paper being issued. And how it all works together, if you read that little note in the box at the bottom of the slide, essentially it's a paper transaction only. It's not a real money transaction. On paper, we have the developer owns the bonds. When you own a bond, you're entitled to principal and interest. But he's also the lessee under our leaseback transaction, and the only payments on the bonds are rent due on that leaseback transaction. So essentially, it's a circle. It's circular. You have rent, and you've got principal and interest on the bonds. They're the same amount. They come from the developer originally, and then they go right back to the developer as bond purchaser. Rather than actually having money change hands, these are transactions we can record on a ledger and just offset each other. Are there any questions on that slide? I know that's it's a complicated transaction to get to what is somewhat of a simple result, which is sales tax exemption.
I'm just going to ask the basic question. Why do you do all this if it's just so you don't pay sales tax? Why isn't there a certificate when you send it into your vendor that says, I don't owe sales tax like anybody else would do that is a not-for-profit or whatever? I'm curious if, and I realize there's a reason the legislature did it sometime, but I'm not figuring that out intuitively. So do you have any idea why this was done this way?
Well, it's an excellent question, first of all. It's presumably the legislature could, if they wanted to, pass a law that says, just give them the certificate. But they haven't. This is what's permitted under state law.
Okay.
There are several states, Missouri, Ohio, Georgia, that have sort of this revenue bond just structure built into their state incentive statutes. And so it's kind of a way that I guess they just pigeonholed it into an already existing incentive structure.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, how often has this happened in Missouri?
This is it's been happening for decades, one. Last several years, it's becoming more and more popular of incentive just because sales tax rates around the state have gone up quite a bit. And with construction materials too going up, it's
pretty common statewide?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything else on Chapter 100? Moving on to the next bill, this is the Chapter 353 bill. Chapter 353 is Chapter 353 of the Missouri statutes. It's been around since the 1940s. It's also known as the Urban Redevelopment Corporation's Law. We have a separate ordinance for that because it's not applying to sales tax exemption. There are no bonds involved in Chapter 353. It is a real property tax abatement incentive. The ordinance in front of you includes 3 exhibits. One is a development plan. This is a document that says, what's going to be built, what level of property tax abatement is available. Exhibit B is a blight study prepared by PGAV planners. They're a planning consultant out of St. Louis. Under state law, under the Missouri Constitution, to grant real property tax abatement, a blight finding is required, and that blight study supports that this area does meet the legal standard for a blighted area. And finally, Exhibit C is our development agreement. That development agreement provides the terms and conditions upon which the abatement will be available. The main term and condition there is you've got to complete the project. You don't get abatement if you do half a project. Under Chapter 353, there is a notice and public hearing requirement. We're right here in the public hearing right now. Notice-wise, there was a tax impact statement that shows the revenues available to each taxing district if the project were not to be built, and if it is built. Those are estimates, of course, because we can't predict the future, but that tax impact statement was sent to every affected taxing district. And then finally, well, two things. On the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see the abatement schedule. Years 1 through 5, you're paying base taxes only. Base taxes are basically what's there now. Years 6 through 10, 75% abatement. Years 11 through 15, 50% abatement. 16 through 20, 25% abatement. After starting year 21, no more abatement, full taxes. And again, when we look back at that base year, we're making sure that those taxing districts are still getting what they're getting today from the property. So the next few slides are just kind of a breakdown. Well, first of all, this is the existing property. It's got a assessed value right now of approximately $46,000. That generates a little less than $2,000 a year in taxes. And that $2,000 is total among all the taxing districts, city, county, fire district, everyone. If this bill were adopted as an ordinance, and if the project is completed and tax abatement is triggered, we've got these next few slides to kind of break it down by taxing district. So for the school district, right now of the approximately $2,000 in current taxes, they get about $1,300 of that. That's their share. They're the largest taxing district by tax rate. Year 1, so the first year after it gets built, that jumps up $40. That's just a inflationary increase in the value of the dirt, essentially, between now and when we would think construction would be complete. That's the assumption behind that. Year 6, when we go to 75% abatement, we've got the school district projected to get $81,000. Year 11, that jumps to $169,000. That's during the 50% abatement years. Year 16, $269,000, and then it's the 25% abatement years, and finally at full taxation, $373,000 generated from this property. Again, that's the property would at that point consist of 268 apartments, roughly, and parking lots, and a lot more assessed value than what's there currently. For the county, you can follow those numbers. They go from $51 currently to over $13,000. Next slide here has fire district and senior citizens tax. There is a special condition in Chapter 353. It was added a few years ago. Emergency service districts, including the fire district, can essentially opt out. So you'll see their taxes go basically from the $347 they get currently. That's their portion of the roughly $2,000 of existing taxes, to immediately over $75,000. Because again, special law for them, they get to opt out of the abatement. Senior citizens tax, $21 all the way up to $5,700. Developmental disability, $26 up to $7,000. Road and bridge, $51 up to $13,000. And these are numbers based on projections of assessed value over 20 years. We can't guarantee, how the assessor will assess the project over 20 years. Hopefully for everyone's sake, property values are going up and we're all very happy. But hopefully they don't go up too high that we're pricing each other out of the market. But we would expect at least some inflation over 20 years, and these numbers take that into account. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, and thank you, Mark. I am going to have Jeff Tegetoff come up in just a minute. Just a second, Jeff, I know it. But on strictly the 353 and the 100, the abatement, is there any questions about that specifically? You can ask him later, but I am going to have the developer come up and talk about the project itself, unless you have a specific question for Mark at this time. Anyone?
I do.
Alderman Osteen.
Just to clarify, the abatements on the pilots program begin when the project is completed, correct?
That is correct. There is no abatement until the project is completed.
And when would be the anticipated date the actual entire project would be completed?
I believe you
That-
guys are projecting about 18
That'd be a
months.
developer, yeah.
18 months from start, and you would start. Yeah. Did you hear that?
Yes. All right, thank you.
All right. Any other questions for you? Yes, sir. Can you stand up and talk loud, please, where I have a microphone?
Very loud. I'm a little confused about the fact that there is a blight in this area. Is that the blight, those two structures up there, one which has some overgrown weeds and another one with chimney and windows? Is that what's defining blight for that property?
Those pictures were taken by PJV planners, I believe, within the last month and a half.
Is that the basis for saying it's a blighted area?
There's a legal definition of blight. I can pull it out of the development plan if you like, but that is some evidence that PJV cited as blight, yes.
I've lived in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, and I've seen a lot of blight. That to me stretches my imagination to call it blight. So I just don't understand why it's being called blight.
And if I could,
Lovely woodlands, I've been on that property, actually. I think it's very nice.
yeah, and if I could interject, because I had the same question, and the city attorney, and again, layman's terms, but the definition of blight that you and I have is different than the legal definition, and this does fit the legal definition, as written by state statute. Any other question about this before we have the developer come up and speak?
The question for you if anyone didn't hear, was how does the fire department get opted out? The answer is the state law changed roughly 3 years ago to allow it.
All right. Yes, if you could come to the microphone if you could, please.
This is common in the state law. That number of lot would be 2.
Mark, could you repeat the question, please?
The question is trying to quantify how much is a lot, how widely it's been used. There are not 1,000 apartment complexes under construction in the state right now, so but in the dozens, within the last few years.
Okay, the last few years.
Yeah.
Have any of them been golf courses?
The question is whether any have been developed on golf courses. I do not know.
All right, well, he'll be available for more questions, but if you don't mind, Jeff Tegetoff, the developer, you want to come up and speak? And we can stay here all night, so answer any questions you folks need. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing all right. Not in any pain anymore. So, hi, I'm Jeff Tegetoff. I'm the owner of Tegetoff Development and developer of the property. Appreciate you guys having me back. Just a couple things I thought would be helpful to regroup on. You know, we've spent a lot of time working on this project, probably going back almost 4 years now. The genesis of the project was when my wife and I lived here full-time. When I met her, she was an occupational therapist at the hospital. And that's when I started understanding that there was a dire need for more housing at the lake as I got to know her and her friends and colleagues more. And as I continued to talk to more business owners, I kept hearing the same thing. So as an apartment developer, you know, the first thing we do is go to the facts and the statistics, and we started with the city's comprehensive plan. You know, after looking at the city's comprehensive plan, I was pretty surprised to see some of the actual statistics. Obviously, the city had identified a dire need for housing in that plan, but the plan recognized that 76% of all housing in the city of Osage Beach is either single-family or owner-occupied condominiums, which is extremely high for a city this size. As well, the comprehensive plan identified that there was a need for over 800 acres of land to meet the projected housing needs of the city. You know, that just further justified, you know, my initial gut belief that there needed to be housing down here. You know, I know over the past few weeks, there's been a lot of emotion surrounding this project on social media, on the radio, and in the papers. That's not uncommon with any type of project like this. We see this all over. These are tools that we've used in other municipalities throughout the state of Missouri, from Chesterfield to Lee Summit, and kind of everywhere in between. But I thought I would clarify some of the things that I think out of emotion that I feel like are rhetorics that have been said about the project over the last 3 weeks. Primarily, the cost to educate a student per year at $13,000 a year. While that is true, I think it's a flawed argument to say that we're not carrying our burden at the development, no matter what our taxes are. And the reason I think it's a flawed argument, and it's just not how municipal or school finance works, is by looking at how many single-family homes currently in Camden County pay $13,000 a year in taxes. And so I went to the Camden County website and looked that up. And I found out that the median property tax of a single-family home is $920 a year. And the median value of that home is $187,200. And so there's a tool on the website to calculate your estimated taxes. And I played around with it. To get $13,000 in property taxes a year, your home's appraised value needs to be $2,653,060. So the argument that we're putting a financial burden on the school, I think, is flawed in the sense that every home in Camden County that has a student in it, one student, that's not worth $2,653,060 is then putting a burden on the schools too. Now, if that home has 2 students, it would need to be worth over $5.2 million, or else that argument is flawed. And so on, you can play the math out. It's just not how schools are funded or how municipal finance works. A couple other things, I know we've been challenged on approximately how many students will live in this development. This is something that's really important to us in every development we do because of how we design the unit mix, floor plans, the amenities, the layout of the development. We're estimating a maximum of around 25 children in this development. It doesn't mean they're all school age. I'll give you our last 3 developments in the state of Missouri. One in Lee Summit, that's 237 units. Lee Summit's a very high-performing school district in the Kansas City metro. 237 units, there's 10 children that live in that entire development, and only 5 of them are school age, kindergarten through high school. The other 5 are toddlers. Wild Horse Apartments in Chesterfield, Missouri, which was 188 apartments, has 2 children, and they're both students.
Keep it on.
That's also in the Parkway School District, another high-performing school district that people gravitate towards. The other one's the Flats at Dorset Ridge. It's 214 units. There are 14 children that live in that development, and only 7 of them are school age. The other 7 are toddlers. So again, we try to remove the emotion from this and look at actual statistics. In addition, we did employ a third-party market study firm to give us estimates on what we thought. The reality is there will be a lot of people without children moving in here, whether it's 1, 2, or 3-bedroom units. There are no 4-bedroom units in this development. It's just 1s, 2s, and 3s. But I thought it was helpful to just, these things are really important to us as a developer, and as we plan these, we do look at actual statistics from our past developments in the states. We looked at actual developments that we felt also had great school districts that people would want to move to. And then we also looked to a third-party market study. Some other questions that have risen around road safety. I think it's important to note that, again, this is something that's an emotional subject that we paid a lot of attention to. We started by really spending a lot of time with the Cars family, who know this curve in the Nichols and know Nichols Road and that section of it better than any of us do. They run their business there. They live around there. They've lived on the property. And so we got statistics as well on how many accidents have been there. The reality is, in about the last 8 years, there's been 1 major accident. It was a FedEx truck. The police report says that he was texting and driving, and he hit a tree. Mr. Cars told me that tree is in good health and still standing, so that's good. But more importantly, around our second form of ingress and egress nearest the school, we know there's some concerns there. And I think it's important to note to not stand there today and think about what that intersection would look like, but also envision it when the grade is changed, which we will have to change the grade. As well, there'll be some clearing that'll be done. We'll have dramatically improved sight lines at that curb cut. That curb cut was also located and put in place by a civil engineer who's a professional at this to figure out the best location for that second form of ingress and egress, which is necessary for fire safety access. But we also designed the entire development to position the clubhouse nearest the highway, as well as mailboxes. And we believe we've designed it in a way that the primary entry and exit for people who live in the development will be the one closest to the highway, not the one closest to the school. But it is necessary to have a second one there for safety reasons, but we're taking every precaution possible to make sure we improve the sight lines, change the grades there, and try to direct internal traffic to the first entrance and exit. That first entrance and exit is under 200 yards away from the highway intersection. And we don't feel like we'll affect the further down Nichols as much as I think emotionally people feel like it is. You know, the reality is this is a $62 million project, a $62 million shot in the arm for Osage Beach. You know, we'll be investing $24 million in cash into this project and have a $38 million loan that I'll be personally guaranteeing myself. There'll be hundreds of local construction jobs. There'll be full-time jobs for the property and many, many other millions of dollars of local economic impact from those workers and people who live there, shopping, eating, doing entertainment activities in the lake area. I know in the last meeting it came up about how much local materials we could buy. We're very fortunate in the lake area to have I think a nationally prominent contractor in Thomas Construction who's built some of the best, I'd say the largest commercial projects at the Lake of the Ozarks, from the nearly $40 million worth of work they've done over for Mr. Waddington at the Redhead facility to some of the new construction at Old Kinderhook. You know, we feel like they're best in class, and I think the lake area is very fortunate to have them. We're fortunate to have them have their business in Osage Beach, and we've been working very diligently with them to maximize the amount of local materials that can be bought, not just in Osage Beach, but in Camdenton and Miller County as well. We'll continue to work with them and continue to stay accountable to the city on how that process is going. But again, I just want to end by saying, you know, there's nobody that's going to have more of a vested financial interest in the success of this project than myself personally. From the cash equity investment to guaranteeing the debt, we need this to be designed right, whether it's for students or whether it's for road access. And you know, we are not a build, fill, and flip developer. We're a develop to own forever developer. We intend to be here for a long time. And we intend that when year 21 comes around and we're paying over $400,000 a year in taxes on a property that's currently yielding $2,000 a year in taxes, I think everybody's going to be quite delighted at the millions of more dollars that will be generated in tax revenue from this property than is currently in its current state. So thank you for your time. I'm available for any other questions at this time.
All right. First of all, comments and questions from the board. Alderman Rose.
I would just like to reiterate and elaborate more than anything. I'm very passionate about Nichols Road, and it's obviously my ward. I lived down there for over 20 years and had seen the construction when the school was put in, and there was a lot of concern about that with the traffic, and they even talked about putting in a turn lane and whatever. Thus far, thank God, there has not been any incidents of any major consequence. The only incidents is that we've tried to control is the speed when people go up and down that hill, and we put some speed zone signs up and above and below. where I'm coming from, and I appreciate your explanation about the exits and entrance, because that is where I really I'm on a mission. And I will be sure, and I will, along with your engineers and our city engineers, that wherever that upper exit and entrance is going to be, and what you're saying, the lay of the land, they will cut back some of that, I call Jet Peninsula out, where it'll be flattened and it'll be more visible coming down or going up. But I appreciate that, but I'm going to be on your back is all I'm saying. And I'm nobody, but Alderman Becker and I are both aldermen for the ward, and we're very passionate and concerned about the residents using that and knowing there'll be a lot more traffic there. But we do need more apartment complexes, without a doubt, and it'll certainly help with our economic development. And thank you for your time and for your explanation, but we will still follow up with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other aldermen have any comments or questions at this time? Alderman Becker.
Yes, Alderman Morose, I completely ditto what she said. I would like to ask for a commitment from the developer that if any time between tomorrow and say 5 years after this development's built, if it's deemed that Nichols needs improvements, whatever those are, that there's at least some sort of cost share with the city.
Yeah, here's what I can commit to. I will personally pay to have a traffic study conducted, a third-party traffic study conducted after the property is built and stabilized. So because again, I will have a long-term vested interest in the safety and accessibility for my residents living there for many years to come. That's my commitment at this stage, and obviously we want to be a part of the solution. It'll all depend on what that cost share is, but we would commit to being a part of the solution for sure, and we would commit to, out of our pocket, paying to have a third-party traffic study done upon the completion and stabilization of the property.
And you'd commit to financially provide resources if there was a center turn lane or anything of that nature?
We would be very interested in being part of a cost share, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we'll get to the public here in a second, but any other alderman comment? Alderman Osteen.
I do have one comment, and this goes back into one of the big issues being discussed, and that is regarding the impact on the school district. I think anyone in this room that have or has had children in school would agree that anytime somebody is purchasing or relocating their residence, one of the key factors they're looking at is to maintain their children in the same school district. So a lot of the statistics saying that we're looking at approximately 25 additional students being added to the school district, but I believe that is untrue. I believe that the majority of those students basically will already have been in the school district, they're just relocating residences. I think anybody in this room will agree that is one of the key factors when you are moving is to want to maintain your children in the same school district. So I keep hearing a lot of talk about adding additional bodies. Yes, there may be some, but I think saying 25 additional students being added to the school district is a misnomer.
Thank you.
Very good point. Any other alderman? Alderman Ross.
Just in general, this 353, I guess I would just say that this is new. And so anytime it's new, a lot of people have a lot of preconceived or interesting notions. It's generally no different than a TIF. The difference in this type of a development is it doesn't create sales tax because it's apartments. We have, over the last 20 years that I've lived here, become fairly adept and commonplace for TIFs to be considered and approved. Of course, there's a lot of negotiations. And while I realize because it's new, people don't realize that correlation, it's very, very similar to a TIF. The tax abatements, there's usually pilots, payments in lieu of taxes as part of a TIF development also. And so in this particular case, we all know, or at least all have heard, how much housing is an issue here. And I think housing is a huge issue just because of the economic activity that the COVID has brought and the fact that the workforce has been so challenged to have a place to live so they could work here and support the economy that has grown and risen from that. On top of that, as part of a not-for-profit group that is trying to help affordable housing, there is a housing study that was done in 2016 and was updated in 2021, I believe, where the 4 counties are missing at least, and I think that's a very minimum number, 5,000 housing units in 4 counties. And so I have seen some things on social media that say that, this is a corporate giveaway to moms and pops. And all I can say is that I've been here for 20 years, and I don't think anybody's built 275 apartments in the 20 years I've been here in Osage Beach. And so there's not any moms and pops building these things, folks, but we need them. And I don't know that this is the best way. It's the best way I've found so far. I realize tax abatement is an emotional issue, but I still think this is a good investment in our community and a good way to go about it. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Alderman Rucker, do you have anything? Can you hear me?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. Anybody from the public, if you have any comments, questions, please come on up, sign in, and the floor is yours. You may not want to go too far, Jeff. All right.
I think you said enough. Okay, so thank you for allowing public comment. The school didn't get a chance to have any input, so thanks for letting, oh, I'm Gail Griswold, president of the school board, Camdenton School. Sorry. So just to get in real quick, since time has started, it was interesting that you use PGAV, because when I was looking up how schools sued cities and different projects under Chapter 353, they did the study for Centene versus Clayton lawsuit, where a lot of questions were raised on how Chapter 353 was used to define economic liability and social liability. So I just thought that was interesting. It's the same people. And then I just want to make the record know that the school did not receive the information for the first hearing until the day after the first hearing. That's when we received our certified mail. Then I'd like to understand at some point when the urban redevelopment area the corporation will actually be formed, because that hasn't been formed yet. It's just a transfer at some point, but I was reading through the material that right now just Tegehoff has the potential to transfer it elsewhere, but the corporation has not been formed, and that should be formed unless there's some workaround in the transfer.
Mark, if you don't mind coming up and addressing
I would
that.
like to pause my time then, because I got a lot more.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
You betcha. This is a public hearing, so you can take as much time as you
Well,
want.
you got the
betcha.
clock running, so I don't know.
We're not doing 3 minutes.
Mechanically,
Oh, you
That's okay.
talk to the public.
mechanically, under Chapter 353, the way the statute is written, tax
Already
abatement
on.
is
Oh,
triggered.
we can't hear you.
Mark,
Just one second.
speaker.
Yep, mechanically, under Chapter 353, tax abatement begins when title to the property is transferred to an urban redevelopment corporation. You can create an urban redevelopment corporation by filing a form at the Secretary of State. It only takes a few minutes, just like you would create an LLC or another type of corporate entity. That urban redevelopment corporation typically receives title and immediately conveys it back to the developer, because the developer wants to own and operate the project.
That hasn't happened yet.
No, I mean, again, it'll happen, the redevelopment corporation is a party to the development agreement, so it'll be created here within the next couple weeks, so that they can sign the redevelopment agreement. And then its sole purpose will be to, upon completion, receive title and immediately convey it back to the developer. That, again, that's the mechanical aspect of Chapter 353 that starts abatement. And after that sort of transfer occurs, it can go away. It doesn't have a purpose anymore.
Great, thank you.
Hey, Mark, we might just give you the microphone.
Yeah, here, Mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
The 25 students, Alderman Osteen, you said that you do not think that there'll even be 25 students new to the district. The developer just talked about statistics for single families quite often in the beginning of his presentation. And it's my understanding that we're building to attract more workforce to the area. I didn't know we were just redistributing people within the area, so I thought that was the goal. And then are you going to personally guarantee that there's not going to be more than 25 students to the district? If you can answer that, or I can move on.
No, I could just go off with the statistics that they were presenting. I was just stating that yes, the goal is to attract more workers, but you know that those currently living here are probably going to take advantage of this opportunity as well. Those that are living in poor housing developments, living with family members, VRBOs, long-term, et cetera. I think this is an opportunity for those people that are displaced or do not have a better living situation are probably going to take advantage of this. And once again, with school-age children, they will already have been enrolled in the school district. They're just relocating them as far as address. Just conjecture.
Sure, and then you think $900 starting rent will be affordable for those people living with their parents? Okay.
I
Okay,
cannot
move on.
attest to that.
So, and then also just a point to that, when it's built next to one of our smallest schools that we're trying to keep class sizes down, that will potentially go to that school, then we'll have to readdress our boundary lines, which some people say we might have to do in the long run anyway, but that's just something that it's good for the school to be informed for so that we can actually plan. Okay, you good. The fire district was, okay, so I would just like to talk about the developer talking about emotions and social media. When you're talking about taking money away from kids, I mean, you could say that's emotional, but I mean, I've only spoke to facts. I mean, yeah, I mean, the only reason why I'm shaking up here is because I really don't like speaking in front of people, shockingly, but I'm here. I think it's gaslighting to say that people are just, you know, up here, just, you know, emotions and tax abatements aren't a big deal. When you're taking money from kids, and you guys are gonna all be voting to take money away from kids, then sure, you can call it emotional. I think it's gaslighting to say that it's based on facts and statistics and misinformation, and we are using professionals. All of the data that they're using is from metropolitan areas, all of it. It does not apply here. So in metropolitan areas where he's using data for 15 students here and there, please understand economics. You're comparing a metro area with a lot of competition in housing and jobs and income. That is not, everybody's gonna flock to this, and we're gonna get more than 25 students. And if we don't, then I'll eat my words. But you guys have to be prepared for that impact, and you cannot be using statistical data from Springfield, Chesterfield, wherever else, Lee Summit, for the Osage Beach golf course, okay? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, to be honest. I will say the contractor, Thomas, sure, I've used them. I'm currently using them for one of my projects. They're great, nothing personal there. And then another thing is, even though this is a mechanism that's legal, it doesn't make it right. And I think that you're taking the largest tax away from the school, and we work really hard. We have a lot of debt to pay down. We have a lot of work to do. And we got our class sizes down to 13 and 14 in some kindergarten classes, but we still have a lot more work to do. And not only are you impacting the staff, but you're impacting our kids. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak? If you would please come on up and sign in. Yeah, we need a clock.
No, I don't think so. That's why I stopped it.
Hi,
Good evening.
my name is Julie Thomas, and my father-in-law founded Thomas Construction, Wayne Thomas, and he was a good man. He probably never asked for a tax abatement. And it has nothing to do with Thomas Construction. Yes, they're fine builders. It was my family's business. We're no longer there. My husband is also a developer and a builder. His name is Eric Thomas. And you know what? We understand the need for workers, so I get that. And I appreciate the city looking for ways in coming to this, conundrum that we're in because of the economy and just everybody pouring in to this area. And so I understand that there is a difficult situation that we're presented with. But let me tell you, my father is a developer all across the state, and he has leaseholders, and he's never asked for a tax abatement, ever. And he's paid his fair share in taxes, and there are people all across the lake who don't have kids in school that have to pay for the school. So I just want to say, if we start this trend of bringing developers in and saying, we'll give you a 5-year tax abatement, why him and not them? How about me? Maybe I want to come in and build 200. Are you going to give that to me? How about other people? Because everybody's flocking to the lake right now. So be very careful what doors you decide to open and what you want to, because you can't close the Pandora's box a little bit when you start doing that. And so just think about that a little bit before you decide we want to do this for some and not others. That's a little bit of, government picking winners and losers. And frankly, if little Pop down here has to pay his school tax, somebody who can come in with $24 million cash shouldn't have a problem with that $13,000. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to speak? If you would please come up, sign in.
My name is Glenn Williams, and I live just off Dude Ranch Road. So I drive that stretch of roadway multiple times a day, and it's pretty dicey there. I mean, just today, someone crossed the middle line as I was coming down there, and you've got an embankment on one side and a goalie on the other, so you don't have a lot of room. I hit a deer there 6 months ago. I came around a blind curve, and the deer jumped off the bluff and boom, right into it. So, yeah, I get a little concerned about the traffic there in general. There was some talk of building a sidewalk along there to the school, I think from the apartment complex to the school. I would hesitate to build a sidewalk there because one misstep of a young child into that roadway, and that could be like the worst accident ever, or one car driving up onto the sidewalk. So I would encourage a sidewalk or a walkway being built from the project to the school off the roadway if that were to be done. As far as the development itself, my initial knee-jerk reaction was NIMBY, not in my backyard, but it's not my backyard, and I respect the right of people to build there. But the tax abatement for 2 decades, to me, is a little odd, because if there's such a low supply and such a high demand, you'd think this would be a slam dunk in terms of an economic, enterprise for someone to build an apartment complex like this. But the rents, the $900 for the 1-bedroom, the $2,000 for the 3 bedrooms, and I'm guessing $1,400 or $1,500 for the 2 bedrooms. Is there any control over those prices for the next 2 decades? Or can they go to any price whatsoever? I mean, is it really affordable housing? How do we know it's going to be affordable housing? I don't know. So that's just something to consider when you're giving 2 decades worth of tax abatement. Is it because you're encouraging the development of the project, or you're encouraging low-cost housing? I don't know in the lake area how many upscale renters there are for upscale properties like this. Maybe it will command those kinds of rents, maybe not. Maybe it can go a lot higher. But just in terms of the tax abatement, because it's 2 decades worth of tax abatements, those are the kinds of questions you should probably give some consideration to.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to speak? If you would please sign if you have not already. Thank you.
I signed it earlier. Thank you. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes to talk. My name is Jeremy Anderson. I'm the general manager for Big Thunder Marine. I represent close to 100 employees here in the lake area. We have 2 properties, pretty major $1 million properties in Osage Beach, our showroom and the new Lakeport property. And I have been here for 6 years. I've been to Lake Ozark Regional Economic Development Conferences. I've been to workshops. I've been to numerous different places and events around the lake. And every single event has the exact same statement, the exact same words, the exact same thing comes out of it. We need more affordable housing. And our own company, as we look to grow from what was a 25-person company in 2016 to now almost 100 employees, we are having a hard time bringing people to the lake because they don't have an affordable place to live. We've lost 5 employees that we've tried recruiting from outside of the lake area in the last year alone. They just can't simply find a place because everything is gone to VRBO, it's gone to significant condos that used to be able to be affordable aren't affordable anymore. So look, whether it's this is the only one that I've seen so far, and I've followed both in Lake Ozark and in Osage Beach. This is the only development that I've seen so far that has even come close to addressing the significant shortage of affordable housing in the lake area. So I appreciate the time and just want to speak on behalf of our 100 employees that we appreciate the lake area very much and we look forward to more.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, well, I'm going to say a few things, surprise, surprise. First and foremost, I want to address the school system because having recently gotten out of the fundraising business for 32 years, my livelihood was selling nonprofit items to schools so they could raise money. Cheese, sausage, cookie dough, fruit. If anybody was the Camden band and sold cookie dough, you probably sold that with me. Unfortunately, even though it was my livelihood, a lot of times kids raised money by selling product to do things that quite honestly should have been covered. But I've even seen some schools, smaller schools, raise some money so the kids could have basically instruments, holders. So point being is I'm very passionate about schools. And when the school thing was brought up, and I apologized day one to Gail, and I said, in retrospect, this is different than a TIF. Both the TIF and the 353-100 have different legal things that has to happen. With the TIF, there's certain parameters when you have to notify the TIF commission. With this, we followed everything we were supposed to do. It was brand new to us, and in hindsight, with a 268 unit development going up, the first thing all of us should have probably thought, what about the schools? We didn't. So I told Gail, I am sorry. We should have let you know. We followed the legal. From here on out, that won't happen again. And I went on the radio show and I talked about that. And I said, all right, from here on out. And that's when I got a hold of Jeff when we talked and we had a study. He's got like 16, some are 100 and some units, and there's a formula they plug in, and that's where he got maybe 20, maybe 25. And Bob, you had a very good point that Alderman Osteen, excuse me, people are going to move in. But I also wanted to address, I was looking at the 2022 operating budget for the Camden School District, and I started looking at the taxes and the $13,000, which is true. It's probably about $13,000 per student. And then I got to thinking, what about those families of 4, and you have 2 kids in school, using that same figure to educate those kids. Somebody comes in here from Texas and they buy a house and they have 2 kids, ages 8 and 10, and they're paying about $920 in taxes because the average income of a house, like Jeff says, about $187,000. So using that same argument, those 2 kids into the school district, they should be paying $26,000 to educate them, but they're only paying $920. And of the school budget, by doing the math, about 63% of property taxes is what goes towards that $13,000. Some is Prop C, some is federal, some is county, so some is state. So to use that $13,000 figure times 25 over 20 years to get $6 million is just not true. The same thing you could say about Dearborg's, the property tax. There's no kids there, but they're paying property tax. So of the 4,100 kids in the school system with an operating budget of about $60 million, 20 to 25 kids over the next 20 years isn't a big impact. And the money produced by those families, every dollar they spend in the city of Osage Beach in sales tax, the city's gonna get 2% on that, so that's a good thing. And to say we pick and choose mom and pop and big corporations, all of these things are request driven. Since 1945, this 353 has been on the books, and they were the first ones to come to the city and say, we wanna do this. We didn't go to them. They've used it elsewhere. They saw we had a need here, so they said, here's our application, here's our money. They followed the legal descriptions. They did everything they were supposed to do. We did everything we were supposed to do, and now we are at a crossroads. In fact, I was the one that negotiated the stair step of the tax abatement. And I know that Mr. Tegetoff wants to do more developments down here. He's not going to continue to ask for all this every time, but construction costs to get this things off the ground, we need it now. We can't just kick this can down the road. The Nichols Road was developed for growth pre-COVID. Growth never happened. Well, it's happening now, folks. And we can't not do this and then 3 years later say, now where are all these people gonna stay? So those are a couple of points I wanted to make. And the affordable housing, this was never meant to be low-income affordable housing. This is a nice property. And when you talk about $900 for a single bedroom, brand new, no family's gonna have a child in 140 units because it's a single bedroom. They're not going to have the child sleep on the bed or on the couch, whatever. Of the other ones, you're talking about dog park, you're talking about a swimming pool, you're talking about a clubhouse. Very nice for the income. So if you have two kids that work at Backwater, 25 years old, and they're paying $700 a piece for a brand-new two-bedroom, I think that's affordable. So point being, this was never meant to be affordable, low income. This is missing middle, people that maybe have lived here for years, they've got a child, they've got two now, they've lived in this house for 20 years, they see a way to upgrade, and all of a sudden the house that they just moved out of becomes affordable income for someone else. So with that being said, this is the end of the public hearing, and if somebody else would like to talk, we can certainly spend all night doing it. So if we don't, anybody else would like to say anything? Yes, sir, please come up.
No. Try to get out. I'm gonna lose them.
My name's Nick. I live about a mile from here. Got a young family. They all go to Osage Beach Elementary in Camdenton. I think it's an awesome opportunity to, grow affordable housing here at the Lake of the Ozarks. It needs to happen. I've been here for 9 years. That's the constant argument everybody has. When I first moved here as a young man with a young family, it was very hard to find a place to live. And it was a struggle, but we're growing. Everybody can see that. It's a good opportunity. I think it's great that there's a builder out there that's willing to put his own money up to build something like this for us. So
All right.
I think it would be a great opportunity for Osage Beach.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Well, just a second, Mr. Patterson. Yes.
So my name is Jennifer. I wanted to clarify that. So you did say for the first time, this is not affordable housing. Is that correct?
I'm just saying affordable housing is
Internet
up to those
instability.
that are explaining what affordable housing is.
Because
I'm just saying, if you go into St. Louis, Kansas City for $900 for a single bedroom apartment, that's pretty affordable.
Yeah, because earlier, when you were speaking just now, you may have slipped, but you said that this was never meant to be affordable. So I just want to make sure that we were clarifying. Is this affordable? Is this meant to be affordable housing, or is it not meant to be affordable housing?
It depends on the definition. I used it, meaning if you go to some areas, $900 pretty affordable. I think for an area like this, for a two-bedroom that people can get through $1,300 is affordable. I do believe so.
So, okay, and for the $900 a month for the one bedroom, you feel like it is affordable for your citizens of Osage Beach?
For some of them, there certainly are.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Patterson, did you have something?
Yeah, I would just, one of the things that I will, just to clarify, okay? And you all know that I've been here now 24 years. And in the 24 years that I've been here, there has been 4 apartment complexes that have began construction in the city of Osage Beach. 2 of those apartment complexes now have 1 building and 2 buildings, and both were expected to have a minimum of 3 more buildings on their properties. And they did not get any tax assistance, which is why they are the way that they are today, because of, topographical issues, rock issues, what have you. The other 2 properties that actually did finish their developments, being the Summit and Chandler Bay apartments, within the city of Osage Beach, are both MHDC-funded apartment complexes. And those, by definition, are required to be low-income housing. You are required to have a certain income to live in those. And then the state and federal governments provide tax abatement or tax credits for the construction of those developments. And, those are actually the only 2 apartment complexes or apartment developments within the last 24 years that have began construction in the city of Osage Beach and then completed the construction of their entire development. Part and parcel to the fact that we have the need that we do is part of our property, and our land is excessively difficult to develop because of topography and rock. And that is one of the things, when we start talking about people coming in and asking for these type of requests and this type of assistance and aid, they're probably right. More people are going to, from both the residential side to the commercial side. And it will be up to the board to decide whether or not they give that kind of money. But what I will tell you is from the experience that I have, if we want to complete some housing projects in the city of Osage Beach, one way, shape, or form for this type of development, there is likely going to be requests for this type of aid. And this is what they're asking for is a far cry from the tax credits that are provided from the federal and state government. So that was just something that I wanted to give out to you all so that you understand how difficult it actually is to build this kind of development in Osage Beach, Lake area.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. Don't mind sign in and state your name.
Mike is really drawing this thing out.
So my name's Bill Donovan. I just moved in to the area about a year and a half ago. I actually live at the far end of Nichols. So parts of this will definitely impact me. And I mean, so I don't know if any of this will be answered tonight, but the there's no question. I mean, there's going to be 10 buildings. They look like they're going to be nice. If they're landscaped nice and everything, it should be fine. My biggest concern is that road is kind of narrow. So when they're doing the construction, which I assume will be 12, a contiguous 18 plus months as they indicated, the school comes in, we all got to come in. At some point, even when they're doing construction around our homes, I mean, a cement truck's a cement truck. Sometimes they're in the way. So hopefully the city has taken into account to be able to get, traffic in and out of there, especially the school. I mean, when it lets out and stuff, I mean, there are a lot of people there. And that's a segue into the school, which I'm not sure if you guys could answer that or not. I just don't understand up here how much headroom we have at a given school, given grade level or whatever, whether we have 25 or 100 kids. I mean, statistically, it really depends. If you take 25 of them, say there's only 25, but they're all fourth graders, that's a huge hit. So, that would have to be figured out. And then this one will be testy for some, but on the money side, I kind of think, shouldn't the school district actually have like a lot of money? Because there's a ton of condos, single family homes that don't have any kids, and we all pay property taxes now. So I'm not really sure. It is a long abatement and it is a substantial amount of money, but I don't have those numbers in front of me. I'm just kind of curious why it's such a potential hit, because I would think that it would be on the other side. And that's, I mean, as far as. Sure.
So the current board has predecessors that have gotten us into a lot of debt. We're at $60 million in debt. So former boards have got us into a lot of debt. We're in $60 million of debt. It was 80 when I first took my seat. We were funded some bonds. So while we should have a lot of money, I agree, but we're in a lot of debt for bad decisions like this. And the school where it's located now is super underbuilt, poor location. I would think it'd be better along a truly blighted parkway. Local dollars, we received $44 million this last year. So that is not state and federal. And currently we have 4,000 students, and we have a lot of geographical area to cover. We have the most geographical area for buses, I think, in the whole entire state. And we actually pay for our own, and we don't have to put, like in Wentzville, they're putting kids in aisles because they can't afford their transportation. They're tripling, doubling up. So we're doing a really good job with our money. Yeah, we have money, but our tax rate is the lowest in the area. We have a lower tax rate than Lebanon. I think Lebanon's 4 something. We're at 2.9. So the property taxes that they're abating isn't even city taxes. They're making decisions for the school taxes, for the county taxes. The city doesn't even collect property taxes. So you have these guys making decisions for other areas. So I could keep going, but that probably is good enough.
I appreciate it.
All right.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Alderman Rose.
Mayor, I would just like to respond to a comment that was made about the sidewalk possibly being on Long Nichols Road. That's not going to happen. It's my understanding with the developer, and I've seen it, that they do plan on having a sidewalk behind the buildings to go over to the school area. Because I certainly would not have been in favor of that either. Thank you.
All right. Bless you. All right, one more comment I thought about too, is one of the first things when I became mayor, I was saying with Woods closing down, why can't we get another grocery store on this side? And talked to Carrie Patterson. There's been multiple grocery stores that came to town, and they were doing what they call rooftop studies. And rooftop studies, we need more people, we need more people. We're close, we're not there yet. Well, guess what, folks? This makes us even that much closer. So the more development we get down, the more chance we have for another grocery store. So, all right. With that being said, do I have a motion to, I'm sorry, do you have a question? I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can you speak up, please?
But you guys are saying that we're not bringing people in the area, we're just relocating them, though.
We're looking for both, I believe, yes.
But you guys are saying we're not bringing people in, so
No,
we're not gonna affect
we're
the
saying
school.
both. I know you're looking to go tit for tat,
No,
but
I'm not.
point
I'm
being
not.
is, this is for new development, and some people will move into it as well. My point is, the more people we bring here, because we do need housing, the more people get here, the better chance we have to have another grocery store.
Well, I'm not looking for a tit for tat, I'm just
Okay.
following the words that you're saying.
All right, well, thank you very much. With that being said, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Alderman Rose, do I have a second? Alderman Ross. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on. Bill 22-71, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, an ordinance authorizing the City of Osage Beach, Missouri to issue its taxable industrial revenue bonds, preserve at Sycamore Creek, Series 20222, in a principal amount not to exceed $63 million for the purpose of providing funds to pay the cost of acquiring, constructing, and improving a facility for an industrial development project in the city, approving a plan for the project and authorizing the city to enter into certain agreements and take certain other actions in connections therewith. City Attorney, Mr. Rucker, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This is one of three ordinances the board has to consider tonight that deal with Mr. Tegetoff's development at Sycamore Creek. The three ordinances are Bill 2271 and Bill 2274, which are on for a second reading, what we call unfinished business. Then the third ordinance will be Bill 2280, which is new business, and that is the fee reimbursement agreement, which will, that's the money that comes out of the city's pocket. In other words, if Mr. Tegetoff finally finishes that, he'll be entitled to that. So Bill 2271 is, I believe, what Mark described to you as the Chapter 100 ordinance. It has been approved for first reading. I haven't received any other questions that we haven't already discussed concerning where you are tonight in terms of public comment or comments specifically from the Board of Aldermen. Right now, Bill 2271 is ready for the board's consideration as second reading and final approval.
All right, comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion to approve?
Alderman Schuman, do I have a second? Alderman Becker, roll call, please.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Morose?
Yes.
Alderman Becker?
Yes.
Alderman Osteen?
Tentative, yes.
Alderman Schuman?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
All right.
Ordinance passes.
I'm sorry?
Ordinance passes.
Yeah, ordinance passed. All right, moving on. Bill 22-74, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, designating certain tracts of land in the City of Osage Beach, Missouri as a blighted area, approving the development plan for the preserve at Sycamore Creek, approving a development agreement in connection with the development plan, and authorizing the city to enter into a development agreement and take certain other actions in connections therewith. Again, Mr. Rucker.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Bill 2274 is what we would refer to as the Chapter 353 ordinance. It is the ordinance that authorizes Chapter 353. This is a little bit more complicated for you tonight, technically, because there are three floor amendments offered. They begin on page 171 of your packet. The first floor amendment was requested by the mayor and prepared by Mr. Spikerman. It is the amendment that we have created to be absolutely certain that no taxing entity loses a single dime during construction or in any of the project period. In other words, it creates a requirement that the developer pay pilots, payments in lieu of taxes, to be certain that the amount paid under this project will always be at least what they got last year. Mark, is that a fair statement?
That is correct.
Okay. So first we have floor amendment number 1. So I guess if, Mayor, perhaps we could discuss that or adopt it.
Do we have any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
No, we should approve floor amendment number 1. Sorry.
For number 1. Motion to approve floor 1.
Floor amendment 1, right?
All right.
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? And Alderman Becker, roll call, please.
I'm sorry, what are we doing?
Floor amendment number 1.
For amendment number 1,
And it's a
okay.
roll call vote just to adopt it.
Okay.
That one?
No, this one. Number 1.
Alderman Osteen?
Yes.
Alderman Morose?
Yes.
Alderman Ross?
Yes.
Alderman Rucker?
Yes.
Alderman Schuman?
Yes.
Alderman Becker?
Yes.
All right, then you have 2 and 3 also, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Mayor, next we have floor amendments number 2 and 3. They both address the same issue, which is basically an effort to ensure that the developer puts forth best efforts or all efforts to purchase things locally. Floor amendments 2 and 3 do not contradict each other. The board may, in its discretion, adopt one, both, or neither. What floor amendment number 2 does, and it is designed as a penalty that the developer will, upon the issuance of the bonds, as the project proceeds, the developer puts down a $50,000 deposit, and if they then do not make a sufficient number of purchases within the city, the developer forfeits that fee, okay? If they make the sufficient number of purchases from city merchants, the developer will get the fee back eventually. That's one mechanism to look at local purchasing. The second mechanism was one that Alderman Ross requested. You have floor amendment number 3, and unfortunately, we flipped out inside and outside, so I have now corrected it. You have a corrected version on the set, which requires simply that the developer make a report concerning their efforts and what they can find and what they can't find. There is no penalty associated with floor amendment number 3. I think procedurally, the easy way to do is if you all can discuss both of them at the same time, and then the mayor will ask for a motion to see if anyone wants to adopt floor amendment number 2, and after that, the mayor can ask for a motion to see if anybody wants to adopt floor amendment number 3.
Comments or questions on either amendment, folks? Alderman Becker.
So on floor amendment number 2, what is a sufficient amount?
Alderman Rucker.
I'm sorry.
On floor amendment number 2, what is deemed a sufficient amount?
Mark? Let me take a look at this.
The floor amendment as drafted requires $5 million in purchases within the city, Camden, and Miller counties. If that threshold's not met, then the $50,000 is forfeited as a penalty. If it is met, then the $50,000 is returned.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Ross.
So I kind of started this, so I'll weigh in on what I'm thinking. First of all, I appreciate Mark and Ed taking a shot. An escrow amount and so forth seem administratively burdensome in some ways and missed the mark of what I was trying to accomplish, which wasn't for the city's coffers to be improved by if they couldn't find it locally competitively, but just at the end of the day to get an accountable incentive for our local vendors and material suppliers and so forth to be considered strong. My point of reference is a project that I was involved with many years ago where someone came to town in another town and spent a whole lot of money or did a project, and they swore up and down they were going to use people locally. They hired a general contractor that didn't know local people, and he went out of town and just bought them, and there was no accountability. And I don't see that happening where Mr. Tegethoff. The conversations we've had, I feel better about. And so floor amendment number 3, I would be glad to support. If the board wants the escrow account, fine. I don't see the need for that, and wasn't trying to inflate the city's coffers. So those are my thoughts at this point. Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, do we need to vote on 2 and 3, or?
What I would suggest is you call and see if there's if anyone moves to adopt 2. If there's no motion to adopt 2, 2 will fail.
Okay.
And then you can go to 3, and I got a pretty good idea that Alderman Ross will move to
Perfect.
adopt.
Do I have a motion to
adopt 3.
approve Amendment 2? Seeing none, that fails. Do I have a motion to approve Amendment 3? Alderman Ross?
Did you have a question?
I'm just confused on the process we're going through right now.
Well, we're picking between 2 and 3, and if nobody adopts 2, then it dies, and then we'll go into 3, which we're thinking Alderman Ross will probably move to.
Okay.
Would anybody like to move to approve adoption 3, Amendment 3?
So moved.
Move to approve amendment number 3.
All right, Alderman Rucker. Second, Alderman Morose. Roll call, please.
1 second. Alderman Becker,
Yes.
Alderman Schuman,
Yes.
Alderman Rucker,
Still need to do this one.
Alderman Rucker. Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Technology's
Alderman
great
Ross.
sometimes.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Poor guy.
All right. The amendment carries. Now that we have a decision made, do I have a motion to approve the second reading of 22-74, which I just read? And Alderman Ross.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Actually, any comments?
Sure.
Okay. So one of the things, and it's too bad that they chose to leave when it came down to the actual discussion of the 353 approval. But I guess I would just say this. I think that we can do better in how we work with our tax entity partners in Osage Beach on future projects like this. The TIF agreements, and statutorily, we have to do certain things that almost demand that. In this particular case, we're learning from that. But on top of that, I have to say that I'm disappointed in the school system. To come up here and tell us that we are taking money from kids and not even offer anywhere in this process any other option that they could discuss, I find less than professional and doesn't meet the standard that those people were elected to do. And that's pretty much it. At the end of the day, I went to a meeting one time where a very smart man said, if you're going to come in and complain, don't complain without a suggestion, because all it is bitching, and I don't have time for that. And to be quite honest, I think that's what we just saw. And that's all I have.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other comments? If not, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Becker, roll call, please.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
All right. The ordinance passed. All right. Moving on, Bill 22-65, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, enacting new section 112.010 through 112.040, dealing with the Lake of the Ozarks Beach Joint Sewer Treatment Plant and Joint Sewer Board, and ratifying all prior actions taken by city representatives to the Joint Sewer Board. This is the second reading. The next several ones are Alderman Rucker's. If you remember, we went extensively on the first reading. So any comments or questions on the second reading? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Oh, can I read it by full title?
Oh, I thought I read the whole thing.
Oh, yes, you did. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
you just did. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
See? I'm no more than city attorney already. All right. Do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Osteen, roll call, please.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
All right.
Mr.
Bill-
Mayor,
I'm
if you-
sorry?
I apologize, but
I apologize too.
Mr. Cars was trying to get somebody's attention, I think.
Yeah, can I make one real quick statement?
Yes, please.
I know there was concern about the road, and I know Mr. Tagentoff said that they'll be willing to work with the city if so, needs arise that the road needs to have work done to it. Our family, as we have before, will make sure that if we are in control of the ground on the other side, that the city will have what they need to straighten out that road.
Thank you very much.
Correct?
Thank you. Board.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Yes,
you.
all right.
Thank you.
All right. Bill 22-66, second reading, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, setting out the terms of the Building Code Board of Appeals as used by the city pursuant to the uniform building codes previously adopted by the city. Any comments or questions on the second reading? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So move.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Schuman, roll call, please.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose. Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Next, we have the second reading, Bill 22-67, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Chapter 600 concerning terms of the Liquor Control Board. Comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So move.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Becker, roll call, please.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose. Yes. Alderman Becker.
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Next, we have Bill 22-68, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri concerning the Tax Increment Financing Commission, amending Section 135.120 for the terms of members of the commission, and Section 135.140, organization of the commission, and Section 135.160, conduct of meeting. Second reading. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading? Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Alderman Becker, roll call, please.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose. Yes. Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Next, we have Bill 22-69, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Section 111.020, 111.040, and 111.050 of the Osage Beach Municipal Code concerning the purposes, terms, and meetings of the Citizen Advisory Committee. Second reading. Comments or questions from the board, please? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So moved.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Schuman, roll call, please.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose. Yes. Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Three more, folks. Bill 22-70, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Section 400.020, membership, 400.030, officers, 400.110, subdivision requirements concerning the Planning Commission, and creating two new sections, 400.035, conduct of meetings, and 400.045, zoning officer. Second reading. Comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, motion to approve second reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Schuman, second. Alderman Becker, roll call, please.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose. Yes. Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Next, we have Bill 22-72, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, repealing Section 405.680 concerning the Board of Adjustment within the zoning code and enacting in its place 4 new sections, 405.680, 405.681, 405.682, 405.683 concerning the Board of Adjustment within the zoning code, second reading. Comments or questions? Do I have a motion to approve second reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Becker, do I have a second? Alderman Ross. Roll call, please.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
All right, second reading passes. Next, we have an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing expenditure of funds for the Elks Lodge 2517 Veterans Parade Event Support Request in an amount not to exceed $2,000. This is a second reading. Does anybody have any comments and questions on this? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve second reading?
So move.
Alderman Morose. Second, Alderman Osteen.
What?
You just felt like you were left out. Would you like to do second?
Sure.
All right, Alderman Osteen.
Cool.
Didn't want you to be left out.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
All right. All right, thank you. Under new business, Bill 22-78, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, amending Section 115.150 of the Osage Beach Municipal Code to delete the requirement that the city administrator be a resident of the city at the time of appointment. This is the first reading. City Attorney Ed Rucker, please.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board. This ordinance was requested by a couple of the aldermen. Right now, the ordinance specifically requires that the city administrator, which is the only position you have, be a resident of the city at the time of appointment. And it creates some difficulty in hiring people and some difficulty in keeping people. So I was requested to prepare an ordinance to delete this requirement. If this ordinance passes, then the city administrator will simply be treated the same as any of the rest of your professional staff, from the administrator all the way through the entire organization, where you just hire the best folks you can find. If I got any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Any comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
So move.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
First reading passes. Next, we have Bill 22-79, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to execute a contract with GEO Services, LLC, for the installation of 6 City Hall geothermal heat pumps units in an amount not to exceed $41,700. This is the first reading. Building official Ron White, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the board. This is an item that we did budget for. These are units that were out of service since last year. It has taken us a while to find units and people who could supply them, but we did put this out to bid, receiving 3 bids. The apparent low bidder is Geo Services LLC in the amount of $41,700. The city has an extensive working history with Geo Enterprises. They are also our preventative maintenance contractor. This budget amount, or this bid amount, is $900 over the estimated budget amount of $40,800. But there are funds available in this line item to make up the difference. The building department recommends approving this contract to supply 6 geothermal heat pump units for an amount not to exceed $41,700.
All right, thank you very much. Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Ross.
So Ron, I just have a question. This wasn't put out to bid till September 6th. Was there a particular reason why it wasn't till then? Or whenever?
Historically, we have leaned on our PMP contractors to change out units. Once we got to the point where I knew how many we were going to be changing and actually talking to Gene, I was like, this is over that 25,000, but do we still
do we have to go out to bid or do we use our contractor? And so she researched it, said, no, he is not a sole proprietor. It is over $25,000 this year. This does need to be a formal bid process and needs to be taken to the board. So this is different than what we've done in the past due to policy changes, and that's the direction I got.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Alderman Becker.
Hey, this is just for clarification, but building official Ron White said that the budget amount was $40,800. Up above, it says it's $84,133.
Yes, that is for our total capital improvements for the building department, for building improvements. That budget amount, the $84,133, includes such work as the bathroom remodel and the concrete work out front. That is all under one line item. The specific budget line item for these geothermal units was the 41,000, or the budget amount was 40,800, and the bid came in at 41,700.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion to approve.
Alderman Schuman, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Becker, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, first reading passes. Next, we're going to move on to Bill 22-80, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, approving the economic development fee reimbursement agreement between the Preserve at Sycamore Creek LLC and the City of Osage Beach, Missouri pursuant to Section 135.025 of the Osage Beach Municipal Code. First reading. City Attorney Ed Rucker, please.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. A couple of years ago, the board, in an effort to help spur economic development and to do what it could locally, created a program which is embedded in Section 135 of your code to incentivize development by reimbursing certain development fees. Frankly, this is and it's too bad those folks have all left. This is the answer to, does the city have skin in the game? Yes, the city has skin in the game. The city is actually, this isn't just somebody's increment of tax that's not going to occur yet. This is actual cash that's going to come out of your pocket, okay? What happens is the developer will pay the fees they're supposed to under our ordinances. When and if, and we believe there's a 99.9% probability they'll get it done, barring a hurricane or something, the developer finishes the development, okay, gets a certificate of substantial completion, and gets the final certificate of occupancies for these units. In other words, they're done, they've done everything they promised you they do. Then the developer is authorized to ask for and receive up to, and I believe it's about $281,000, Gina can calculate it, on the exhibit attached to the agreement. Yes, sir. As fee reimbursement, and then you can tell how it's set out there. Now, unfortunately, our favorite city administrator is kind of banged up tonight and can't be here, so she knows all this number of stuff. So if you got numbers questions, I will be happy to write them down and get back to you. I'm too old a dog to guess numbers off the top of my head. But this is on for first reading tonight, and then if you do have further questions, of course, we'll get you answers from Gina, and we believe she'll be back at the next meeting.
All right. Comments or questions on the first reading? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
Motion
Alderman
approved.
Ross, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Becker, all those in favor?
Aye.
First reading passes. All right, three more. Bill 22-81, an ordinance of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, vacating undeveloped right-of-ways in the original Osage Beach subdivision by plat. This is the first reading. City Planner Kerry Patterson, please.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the board. What I've got in front of you tonight is something that's been at least a few years in getting completed. We have a number of property owners over basically in the intersection of Osage Beach Parkway and Osage Beach Road that have been working with attorneys and surveyors to try to get rid of some old undeveloped right-of-ways, along with somewhere to the tune of 140 25-foot by 80-foot lots that were done in the original subdivision back in the 1950s. The function of what this does is create 7 new lots out of those 130-plus little bitty lots and the undeveloped right-of-ways, allowing these property owners to, one, you've got Lot 1, which is a 15.14 acre piece of property owned by Power Sports Incorporated, or what used to be Dave Munganast. And this gives them the opportunity to redevelop that, build roads throughout that, whatever they would need to do. And of course, to do that, that would come back through the plating process. But it basically cleans the slate for them. The reason that we're doing it by plat is the reason that I prefer doing all of them by plat, because it is a much cleaner way of doing it. If we were to try to do this by legal description, that legal description would look something like a Sears catalog, and Tara would not be happy about that. This gives us also the opportunity to have the plat illustration, which gives us a good idea when we look at it what we're dealing with. In this particular situation, you have all affected property owners that have signed it, and if the board approves it, upon the recommendation by the planning commission, then the mayor and the city clerk will sign the portions of it that are the certification for the right-of-way vacations. So with that, I took it to the planning commission with a recommendation to approve, and they send it forward to you with the same.
Thank you very much. Comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading?
So moved.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second?
Second.
Alderman Ross, all those in favor?
Aye.
First reading passes. Next, we have a resolution, 22-07, a resolution of the City of Osage Beach, Missouri, support the application of Lake Regional Health System for critical care ambulance service pursuant to Section 190.109, and directing the mayor pursuant to the resolution of the Board of Aldermen to submit the attached letter of endorsement on behalf of the City of Osage Beach. Who would like to take this one?
I got it.
All right, Ed.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the Board of Aldermen. Gina has been working on a support for the application of Lake Regional Hospital and the ambulance. There's some certain hoops you've jumped through. We've had a public hearing on this, which I believe was our last board meeting. What we have is an opportunity here. Right now, the hospital has to rely on other providers to take people who need enhanced care and drive them up to Columbia or to St. Louis or down to Springfield. That takes an ambulance out of service somewhere in our local area. When it takes it out of service somewhere in our local area, then of course the entire emergency services network moves a little bit and it provides coverage, but it's still less coverage than we have. What the hospital has done is they have used some of their ARPA funds, I believe it's ARPA funds, and they have purchased an ambulance. Now, it's not a critical care ambulance. It will not be a competition to the services you provide now. It's a transport vehicle. My experience with the emergency services types, like my police chief over there, is these guys go where they're needed, and they really let the lawyers clean up the paperwork at the end. But we will not be able to do a mutual aid agreement with them. Okay, I don't want anybody to think that, oh, golly, we got another ambulance completely, because we can't do a mutual aid agreement. This ambulance will not have that capability. But what this ambulance will do is it will give the hospital direct capability to take folks that need enhanced care and get them to that enhanced care without inconveniencing any of your first responders at the lake area. Gina has been working on it hard, and I've helped out a little bit, and we both think it's an excellent idea and are pleased that the hospital brought it up. It doesn't compete with this. The reason you guys have to vote on it is you have the license to provide this emergency care right here. And the state statutes require that as the licensed provider, you have to agree to this, okay? We frankly can't see any reason you wouldn't, but this is a legal hoop you have to jump through so that the hospital can get its license to provide this critical service for its patients.
All right, thank you very much. Comments or questions from the board? Alderman Ross.
Chief, do you have any concerns with this?
No, sir.
That's all I have, thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve first reading? Oh, excuse me, do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Alderman Rose, do I have a second? Alderman Becker. Roll call, or do we need roll call, please?
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Becker,
Yes.
Alderman Ross,
Yes.
Alderman Rucker,
Yes.
Alderman Osteen,
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
All right, resolution passes. Last item of business tonight, before we get to communications, we have a motion to raise the limit of the Niagara, did I say that correctly? Nagler oil fuel contract for the airport department. We have the airport manager, Ty Dinsdale, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Back in November of 2019, the board approved a 5-year contract to purchase aviation fuel from Nagler Oil with a not-to-exceed limit of $900,000 per year. Because of increased fuel sales and because of high price of fuel this year, I'm in dire need to raise this limit if possible, with a request to raise the $900,000 to another $200,000 on top of that to $1,100,000 to help me get through the year for more fuel to be purchased for the airports. This will affect, excuse me, 4 line items total. Airport recommends approval.
Mayor, can I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Normally, we would have accompanied a budget amendment with this, but this kind of came on quickly during the time period that Gina was out, and we were unable to include the budget amendment at this particular meeting. But a budget amendment will follow at one of the upcoming meetings to square this away with the city's expense accounts. So just know that that is coming. Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Comments, questions? Alderman Ross.
So one question, is this raising the limit each year for the remaining part of the contract or just for this year?
This changes the ordinance, permanently raising it until the contract is over at the end of its term.
Okay, cool. The other thing is, so are gallon sales up at the airport so far? Oh, great to hear. That's all I have, thanks.
All right, anyone else? All right, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Alderman Ross, do I have a second? Do we need a roll call on that too? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, staff communications. For those that don't know, Gina is out. She was in a horseback riding incident that damaged her pretty well. And our thoughts and prayers are continue with her. Hope to see her soon. With that, we'll start with Assistant City Administrator Mike Welty.
Yeah, just a quick update on some of the construction projects that we have going on right now. As you know, we are right in the middle of Industrial Road. Industrial Road is on target to finish on time. Obviously, we are working through issues with some of the businesses down there as we work through some of their driveways, but the project is moving along nicely, and I expect the project to end on time. The other project that we do have going on right now is the sidewalk project that we have going along the Parkway. That project is disrupting traffic in several areas, but we anticipated that would happen. We are working through those issues as well, and that project is also on schedule and should finish on time. Those are the only updates I have right now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. City Clerk, Tara Barrett.
I have nothing, thank you.
I'm sorry, did you have a question?
No, I was just going to say, Mike, I just wanted to say with the industrial drive, I know several people that work in businesses down there, and they have stated there has been a little bit of disruption with traffic, but they have said the contractors are working hard. They said they see people going nonstop all day. They don't see people just stopping and sitting around stuff, so that's really nice to hear about the contractor, that the people that are down there are really working hard to get it done. So.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. Nothing?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. City Treasurer, Carrie Bell. All right, City Attorney, Ed Rucker.
All's quiet. You know everything I know.
All right. Chief Davis.
Nothing.
Building Official Ron White.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Wanted to let you know that we've received our second new treadmill for the fitness center, although I haven't...
Can't hear you, Ron.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
I'm going to start over. I've got 2 items. One, we've received the second treadmill for the new fitness room downstairs. That will be paid for out of our MPR wellness credits. Although I have not used them personally, I did test them, and I saw the belt rotate really fast. So we've got that going, and I do encourage anybody, when you're in City Hall, any of you guys, if you want to stop by, we do have the new touchscreen set up in my office, and I am fully capable of receiving electronic submittals of permits and plans. So I'm high tech, I'm still learning, so don't expect a big show, but I can give you a really little show. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. City Planner Kerry Patterson?
Yes, sir. Just real quick, was able to and was invited to, happy to be invited to today's real estate symposium that was put on by the Krantz Group and Whittle Group. And, you know, one of the things, obviously, and Alderman Morose was there as well. And of course, one of the things that came out of that was just how much the lake area needs housing. Big shock, right? I know that the ideology of low-income housing or workforce housing or whatever you want to call that type of housing is the big thing, but make no mistake, the lake area needs housing, period. Housing, any kind of housing. We have people looking at all times for any type of rent level. You know, when we start talking about is $900 to $1,400 affordable, I can tell you that if somebody's looking for a home, that would be very cheap because places to live, roofs over the heads of these students that we've got, you know, places for them to be with their family and places for them to eat and enjoy being a child are very few in the lake area right now. So what this board has done, both tonight in the approval of Harper's Cove, approval of things forthcoming, you know, is foresight by you to try to address a very substantial, if not our greatest need. That doesn't even consider the ideology of what it does for our economy and what it can do for, you know, wherever it goes. Our two biggest developments that we have currently looking are on the west side. That will affect the west side's economy. That will affect stores, that will affect convenience stores, restaurants. It doesn't matter. It provides places for people who do work at the hospital to live. Yes, one person or one family might not be able to afford $1,200 a month, but maybe two nurses that are single, you know, looking for a place to live can do that. That being said, we also, you know, I talked earlier, a little bit earlier about MHDC, both federal and state tax credits. We do have a request in the city of Osage Beach for an MHDC tax credit development that will be asked for to the MHDC on Parkwood Circle.
Can you explain what that is?
Okay, so the MHDC is the Missouri Housing and Development Commission, and they control tax credit money provided by both the state and the federal government. Okay, so the basics is it's the ability for a developer to get tax credits or tax abatement to a degree from both the state and the federal government. Okay, it is 100% locked on the amount of money that the tenants will make. Okay, so you make a certain amount of money before you can apply to live in one of these locations. And the basics of it is the Missouri Housing Commission makes the decisions for what locations are given those tax credits, both state and federal, by way of application and then presentation in front of the MHDC board. All of the MHDC requests that we've had in the past, we have two in the city of Osage Beach, the Summit and Chandler Bay. I've gone up and made presentations for both of those two when they did it. I've also made presentations for three others that did not get MHDC money, which at this point, I think we can all say that it would have been really nice to have gotten, you know, some more of that so we could have some more of those developments within the community. They are very, very nice. They are very closely watched by the federal government and the MHDC. I can tell you if you have been on any of those sites, they are inspected monthly by an inspector who comes in to make sure that they are meeting the requirements of their agreement with the MHDC to get that money. So they are kept very nice. And I will tell you that both of our locations have lists over 100 people waiting to get into their locations. The one that's being requested now is a 55-year-old and over facility. It is a single building, all within contained, and will be a solar-powered building. That is something that they are looking positively on these days, is the ability to provide that energy. And it is being done by Billy Cheney and his group. They are the ones that have received the MHDC money for both the Summit and Chandler Bay. The one that they are requesting now will be out by Chandler Bay off of Passover Road behind the nursing home facility that is out there. And we are diligently working currently with Harper's Cove to get them on the road. Harper's Cove made a presentation at the real estate symposium today, was very well received, and all of the real estate agents out there know that inventory raising gives them an opportunity to make more money, which just increases our economic viability at the Lake of the Ozarks. So you all as a board should be applauded, along with our developers, for seeing the positives in Osage Beach and, helping our ability to bring this housing in. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, IT Specialist, Michael Bean.
Nothing, sir.
All right, Parks Manager, Eric Gregory.
Yes, Mayor, I just want to encourage everybody and remind everybody that the annual Osage Beach Fall Festival event's coming up on Saturday. Park staff have been working very hard preparing for this event, and just want to remind everybody to come out and enjoy it. There's a lot of kid-friendly events going on. We have over 30 vendors for our vendor village, food trucks. There's a Cajun catfish food truck, barbecue, and a gourmet cheeseburger food truck, among several others. 4 different bounce houses for kids, a petting zoo. We have a children's comedian. We have pie eating contest, and you can thank Mitch for tracking down a sugar-free pie for you. It was a little more difficult than we thought, but we got it done. We have live band, Fat Mike and the bartenders will be there, wine tasting, a beer tent, and we have the Army National Guard that are landing a Black Hawk helicopter, and they'll have a Humvee on display. We'll have the Life Flight helicopter landing as well. And also the World Bird Sanctuary will be there with their Raptor Awareness Program. They bring hawks, falcons, owls, and we chipped in a little extra this year, and there will have a bald eagle there. So if you've never seen a bald eagle up close, come out to the Fall Festival on Saturday and have a good time.
Very good. Thank you. Economic Development Specialist, Mitchell Moon.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Aldermen. Tonight, instead of addressing you all, I think I would rather address the individuals at home watching and the individuals in this room sitting right here who has listened to the conversations tonight. I was very, very excited and thrilled to see so many individuals concerned and caring deeply about the economic development in their own community right here in this backyard. If you ask the individuals sitting behind me, if you ask the aldermen, how do you define economic development? I bet you each of them would have just a little bit different answer. And then you ask yourselves that, well, the person sitting next to you, they may have a different answer as well. In the simplest terms, I answer that question with another question. Does it improve the quality of life in your community? I was hired and I had my first day here with the city on June 27th of this year. The Preserve, this project, was one of the very first projects to land on my desk. The amount of professionalism, the exceptional service from these individuals, this organization, the Preserve, has exceeded my expectations. Mid-Missouri, specifically the Lake of the Ozarks, is one of the best regions in the state of Missouri to live. And the Preserve is bringing a project down here to create jobs and to create housing. We all talk about workforce and the workforce woes that face this nation. Well, you can't solve a workforce woe without having a place to house your workforce. And that's what this project is doing right here. Each of the aldermen behind me, they care deeply about the growth and the prosperity of this city. And each employee of the city drive to work each day with a heart of passion to improve the lives of its constituents, to improve the lives of you all sitting before us today. So that's all my thoughts on the matter there. Moving on to a different note, if you look up at the big screens, you're seeing an old historic picture. That was taken around October 30th, 1930. That picture that you're looking at is almost 100 years old. And going back to what I just said about the quality of life in this community, take a look at that. Take a look at that photo right there. Almost 100 years ago, that was Osage Beach. What you're looking at is the original Grand Glazed Bridge being built. I had an individual come to me with some historic photos and was interested to see if the city would like a copy of these photos. And of course, I answered that phone call and jumped on that opportunity. So Alderman, Mayor, this is what you are looking at right now. This is one of many photos that the city will soon have access to by the generosity of the Missouri State Archives. I'd like to thank the team of Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft. I'd like to thank Randy Wright personally. I'd like to thank John Dugan, who runs the archives, and his assistant Erica, who's been working with our office to get some of Osage Beach's historic pictures back to Osage Beach.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to the Alderman. Alderman Rucker.
I have nothing, just enjoying the Canadians.
For you.
Alderman Schuman.
I have nothing.
Alderman Becker.
I have nothing.
Alderman Osteen.
I have just one thing. This is going back to the hot topic about the preserve this evening. I meant to say this earlier when we had a full house, but a lot of the discussion regarding this has been regarding the roadways and the impact on the school district, et cetera. Obviously, we as aldermen all have personal vested interests in any of the issues that come before us. But I just wanted to point out that Alderman Becker lives off Dude Ranch Road in Dogwood Estates. Alderman Schuman owns property in Dogwood Estates.
I used to live here for 20
Alderman
years.
Rose lived off Dude Ranch Road for 20 years. My parents lived in Dogwood Estates in the house I grew up in for 43 years. I also was part of the Camden School District, yet I find it odd that all the discussions regarding the impact on the roadways and the school districts weren't part of the conversation when 241 units went into the Ledges condominiums, or when they built Cayman Beach subdivision, or any of the other various subdivisions that went on down that road. Yes, it's something we should be concerned about and address now, but I find it just, I don't say off-putting, but there was a lot more development that has happened on that road in the past that people didn't blink an eye at. But now roadways, school district, et cetera, are a hot button issue. But once again, I just want to point out that 4 of the members on this board have lived on Nichols Road, have attended the Camden School District or been part of that, or their children have. So we obviously have more than just a personal interest. We've got definitely a very much vested interest in that development. That's all.
Thank you very much. Alderman Rose.
First of all, I'd like to commend our economic developer. Wonderful comments that you made. Thank you. Secondly, I'd like to commend our crew that has been so unbelievably overtaxed, overworked, and whatever in trying to improve and correct the Sands Lifting Station. It's been overwhelming for everybody. And it's just been the dedication that everybody has put forth. My kudos go out to them. And other than that, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Ross.
Hats off to the Public Works team in making that thing happen.
Yeah.
It was quite a deal. That's all I have, thanks.
Very good. Well, that was first on mine. Mike Welty, Kevin Crooks, and that whole Public Works. I mean, he was, I know Mike, I think one night he left there at 2 or 3 a.m., came back the next morning and kept us all informed what's going on and the cleaning, and they having to, all of a sudden, another breach, and so commendable to you and Kevin and the Public Works. Also, go back to the pieting contest. I'm going to be in the piting contest Saturday. It was kind of funny because he asked me, Mike Welty, weeks ago to do this, and I said, well, I'll do it. And I've been on this health kick. I said, see if you can get me a sugar-free pie. And so he said he would. It'd be cherry or apple. Perfect. Well, then the other day I get an email from Eric Gregory. He says, hey, might have a little problem. He said, the chocolate pie is low sugar. That's fine. I decided I'm going to blow my diet that day anyway. That'll be fine. And then he said, never mind. I didn't know what that meant. So today, Mike says, oh, by the way, we got you a sugar-free banana pie.
Banana cream pie.
And I looked at him and said, I'm allergic to bananas. And you should have seen the look on his face. I'm just kidding. So, but anyway, so 2 o'clock, go out all day. It's going to be a great, perfect fall day. Go out to the park. But at 2 o'clock is a pie eating contest. I've never been in one. I'm pretty competitive. And I actually Googled how to win a pie eating contest. We'll see what happens. But then also I wanted to invite folks out this Sunday at the YMCA from 3 to 6. They're having a grand opening of the Magic Dragon Bike Trail. Their new bike path, they're going to have a grand opening out there. It's the first of many new things that's going to help connect the bike trails and that sort of thing. So if you get a chance, go out there between 3 and 6 this Sunday. And with that being said, the board did a good thing tonight. I look forward to the Sycamore Creek project, and we'll work with those that have questions in the future. We do need to move it into executive session, so legally here I need to read something. Notice is given that the agenda includes a roll call vote to close the meeting as allowed by RSMO section 610.021, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees by a public governmental body when personal information about employees is discussed or recorded. Do I have a motion to adjourn to go into executive session?
So moved.
Alderman Morose, do I have a second? Alderman Becker, roll call, please.
Alderman Ross.
Yes.
Alderman Morose.
Yes.
Alderman Becker.
Yes.
Alderman Schuman.
Yes.
Alderman Osteen.
Yes.
Alderman Rucker.
Yes, and please note that according to our ordinance, I will not be in attendance because I will not be able to be there personally.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Motion carries, executive session. Thank you, folks.
If I said no, does that mean I have to go?
Wait,
No.